Hey team, I haven't really streamed on Twitch in a while, and you guys know that I had planned on doing a full playthrough of Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker in my YouTube channel, but that didn't really happen because I made a mistake shortly before that. Some of you guys might have seen the video, some of you guys may not, but one of the things is I still wanted to keep up to date with what's going on with Activision and and the Asmongold stuff and the Bellular stuff and all of that. So I'm really not going to be returning to streaming until I finish Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker because I am dead scared of getting spoiled because I'm enjoying the story so friggin' much. But obviously, I want to get updated as to what is going on with Activision and all of that jazz. So we have a video here from Bellular, and this is interesting because I already had like a video to watch from Activision where stuff was going bad, and then immediately another one came out. So it's just like they keep making mistakes over and over. They keep just like stumbling all over themselves, which is completely and utterly ridiculous. But let's check this out. Even more layoffs and snubbed by Game Awards is getting worse for Activision. By the way, in between the video, I might come in here and just like move my character a little bit because I don't want to get logged out of the Final Fantasy 14 servers just because it's a struggle right now to log into Final Fantasy 14 because Endwalker's launch is like all the hotness. So let's get started.
Welcome back to the enduring saga of Activision Blizzard being absolutely fantastic at managing their own image. Oh, it's so tiresome. It's so tiresome. And it's just the sort of thing where, it's what we've continually been saying here. They do things that are really silly strategic moves when you think about the current situation they find themselves in and how important managing their image almost certainly has got to be to their future.
The reason they make these mistakes, in my opinion, is because they still think they're the 100-ton gorilla. We talked about this in a previous stream that I did, where I basically mentioned that the way that Blizzard is doing business is like they're just throwing their weight around. Like I said, some people still think that it's a coincidence that that they're doing QA rate testing on the launch of Endwalker, and it's like, come on, dude. And there's like a million other coincidences, just like they coincidentally had like some kind of a special event or a PTR or whatever at the exact same time as the beta for what's it called, Ashes of Creation, I believe. It's like, yeah, it's all a coincidence, guys. Don't worry about it.
Because the real problems are hurting them. The image is also hurting them. Look at their stock price, even from that perspective. So to get into things today, we do have a few stories. We're going to kick it off, though, with the staff layoffs that they have done, which it's an interesting thing because there are people who are basically getting the boot. The flip side of that is there's a bunch of people who I believe are now actually being made full-time employees.
Yes.
So in this, there are winners and there are losers. Obviously, the losers side of that story is going to be the one that's going to, draw the more headlines. So there's some wins for employees, but very much not great treatment. I think people being strung along and the sorts of things that just, you should not at all be doing. So a staffer at Raven Software blew the whistle and made it clear that at least a dozen QA contractors are being let go. Of course, good timing, right when Christmas is going to come, with no warning. Of course, being let go.
I'm not that surprised. It seems like exactly the thing that Activision Blizzard would do, just like they laid off 800 people after showcasing record-setting revenues. It's not particularly surprising, especially now that their stock is going down. They're going to be like, hey, our stock's going down. We have to fire people. We can't. And what's the first thing that they get rid of? What's literally the first thing that they get rid of? QA. Who needs QA? Our players will do QA for us through betas. Dude, it's shameless, dude. Shameless.
Sucks, but as long as you're given good warning, often plans can be made. But with no warning is particularly bad and is one of the inherent problems with, the people who are basically...
Is Bellular not going to mention that these people that got fired were asked to relocate in order to do this job? Because I believe I saw that news somewhere. These people were asked to relocate and were actually promised like salary raises and all that stuff. And then not only did they not get a salary raise, they're getting fired after having relocated for the specific purpose of wanting to do this job.
on a rolling 3-month contract, always worrying, hoping they'll get renewed. Now, to make all these matters worse, this was after they were promised a pay restructure to increase their wages. Yep. Here's a tweet. I'm gutted right now. My friends were promised for months that Activision was working towards a pay restructure to increase their wages. Today, one by one, valuable members of the team were called into meetings and told they were being let go. I mean, it is a pay restructure. It's just that.
Whoa! Dude.
It's not going to them anymore. The pay has been restructured away from you and you don't work here anymore. Also, this does come after they were asked to relocate to Raven's office in Wisconsin, seemingly after being hired or working on a remote basis, and of course now returning to on-location work. And this was obviously something that went on after a period of overtime, because they're...
I mean, again, all of this to me makes perfect sense. It's like, oh, well, we overwork them to the point of burnout, which means they're probably going to suck for a couple of weeks because they're completely burned out on their job because we work them into the bone. So what do we do with them? Well, get rid of them and we'll get new ones, and we'll burn those out and then we'll get rid of them and then we'll get new ones, because the gaming industry works off of passion. It does. It works off of passion. People are passionate about these products. People are passionate about being a part of developing and working on these products. And therefore, people want to work on these products. Sometimes they'll take lower pay. Sometimes they'll do other sacrifices. But due to the fact that there's so many people passionate about these products, it's a buyer's market.
Crunching out the latest Warzone bit of content. All this is not looking great. Now, the studio head... Brian Raffel, whatever. He told employees that they weren't considered layoffs. They're just temporary contracts that are not being renewed.
It's not a layoff.
That was the risk. I think a lot of, say, retail workers who end up, often what will happen, right? They'll staff up in retail workers for the Christmas period, and then of that, like, big crop of new people, they'll maybe find the 2 or 3 people who were super good performers, and they'll yank them over for full time, and everyone else goes away. So it basically ends up being this kind of like, a big labor sieve. That's how I see it be handled in retail sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that completely makes sense, because, you're building up to release content. You need more QA for this period of time.
I mean, that makes sense, but asking them to relocate doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you know you're not going to, give them a goddamn contract. At least it's like, hey, don't relocate, keep working remotely or something like that. Or it's like, hey, we can't keep doing this anymore. We need people locally, and we probably will not be able to. There's ways of handling things where it's like, oh yeah, uproot your whole life, move over here, work with us for like 1 or 2 months, and then get the fuck out.
You won't need them for a decent period of time. Same with anything where, the production you require changes and drops.
Yeah.
Same with after a game's finished being like developed, and they're like, okay, well, we don't have any projects, so I guess we'll boot you somewhere else in the company, or if you're on contracts, let you go and maybe keep your name in the book for later on, maybe. So it makes sense, but
I think it's just important that's communicated, that people don't feel strung along, and it's the sort of thing where if there's a position in your company or a role, whatever, where the demands are going to fluctuate like that, there's like a high degree of seasonality in it, that's when you can sort of understand maybe it makes sense to outsource something like that. And you'd maybe say, oh, okay, so if all these QA workers are working in QA houses, then perhaps they get to have a nice, even, steady pace of work. Just that it turns out that actually, no, the QA contracting houses generally do crack the whip quite a lot. Yep. And there's a lot of the overtime and all of the rough things that end up.
QA is potentially one of the most underrated, and undervalued departments of video game development, I feel like.
Going on. And it's the sort of thing where that just comes down to not being a particularly well-run business, and you can actually find similar roles, similar skill sets, similar technical skill sets, not in games, or just managed better, and don't have those problems, and people often get paid more. Indeed, I remember when there was a big pay transparency push, there was people saying, yeah, I'm a receptionist, and I earn more than some of these people who have got like a more expensive, university qualification than I do. I forget her name, but somebody tweeted that anyway, and I think her point was just like, I mean, what the fuck? This is a bit weird. Obviously, that's like no dig, at that role, but it's the sort of thing, you would expect. Technical role requires, the expensive education and all of that. You would naturally expect that to earn a bit more money, to command a higher wage. So, a bit wild. And going back to the whole temp worker thing, basically, we all know the temp work exists around the place. It's just that in gaming, probably because of the extremely high seasonality in some of the QA workloads, it just does end up feeling a little bit exploited, and it creates this sort of situation where
just a little bit
are treated like, the rock stars and the QAs. Basically, the developers are Space Marines, the QA people are, just the Imperial
SCVs.
troopers who, get fed into the meat grinder. Now, for the abused, how? Well, basically, 50 to 60-hour work weeks, up to 70, no paid sick leave outside of California, the job insecurity, crunch that is sometimes unpaid, and, not having fair and respectful treatment. That's the sort of thing. If you're always thinking, shit, my contract's up.
It's again, there's that concept. It's like, well, what do? You just play video games all day, right? It's like, I mean, come on. It's like, no. QA people are not just sitting around playing video games all day. That's not what they do. At least not the good ones, I would imagine.
Up in 3 months. That's going to give somebody an incentive to do unpaid overtime because they want to be the person who's, really the champion in the team so that their contract gets renewed because they need that money to survive. And for a bit of color in that, like here's from QA at Treyarch. QA was told we were only allowed down at the party for a maximum of 20 minutes and that we really shouldn't drink anything because we still had work. At Treyarch, many...
Dude, oh my God, dude, Jesus Christ. It's like, look, I've been in corporate situations and, I've had jobs before I started doing content creation. I've worked in metalworking, I've worked in laser cutting, I've worked in digital printing, I've worked in digital printing management, IT consulting. Like I've done a million different things. And in the companies that I was, there was also like, in a way, there are some people that are valued more because they do more important jobs and all of that stuff, but never would someone go and be like, okay, so you guys, because you're just like the grunts, you guys don't get to be in the party for this long. It's like, never were people treated like that. That's actually disgusting, dude. And not to mention, that creates such terrible company culture. Like, I'm reading this and I'm just like, dude, is nasty.
Contract employees, especially the testers, say they feel like second-class citizens. Even stories of like them literally having to eat the scraps from the dev table whenever food's being ordered in.
Yeah, that's all from the same source as from the Kotaku investigation a decent while ago at Treyarch, but it was like that was the story where they would throw a party and they would say, okay, you QA guys, you're on the second floor, you have to stay here, and then once the party is done, once the developers have had their fill, you can go down and take the leftovers.
Yeah,
actually just.
Some of these companies just have such fucking terrible company culture. Jesus,
like you can sort of see where in a small group you're like, yeah, that's for them, that's fair. But they felt like second-class citizens, which is just in every facet of how they're treated.
Yeah, I mean, they have a different parking lot.
Yeah.
They're, in some cases, told not to speak to developers. Lunch is catered for devs, not for QA. So that's bad. And here's another thing. Less obviously, it's used as a good way to get into the industry, to work your way up, and it's also not unskilled labor. So people's, drive, passion, and knowledge is basically exploited. They are treated terribly, and very few QA testers in games basically end
It's
up
disgusting.
joining the ranks.
Yeah.
And another interesting, the whole thing's fucked basically, because I've also heard from people saying that sometimes the issues you see in some of these teams is like, it's basically just this whole friggin' broken system where the way to get into the dev team sometimes is to just grind in QA, which means like, yeah, you could implement stuff in engine, but you basically spend all this time, grinding, working these crazy hours, well, you can implement in engine, but there's a lot more to it needed than that. And, I've heard that in, say, the Warcraft team, that's been a particular issue. So it seems like this really weird thing where this is a pretty dysfunctional way of getting people into your dev team that is inherently exploitative of people, that does not really train those people up to do well in their new role. Should they make the advancement? It just seems really screwed in a way where basically everyone loses.
Yeah, the point I think I really wanted to get across with putting that in the doc is that, like, that's how it used to be. For a lot of small companies, there's a lot of people who are like great developers these days who began as QA testers. But that was back in the day when a QA tester was, likely someone who worked in-house, and there were only a handful of them. So they got to go to the developer, watch what they were doing, and go, oh, yeah.
Jen O'Neill? Was she
O'Neill?
not a QA? Was she a QA tester? Was she QA initially and then worked her way up?
I think yes.
So maybe. But it's like,
I
it used
think
to be
she
a
was.
decent way in, but now you're put into this contract house where you're just been ground into dirt, as opposed to having that valid thing. But I guess
Exploited
a lot
into
of the
the dirt.
cultural idea is still there of, make your start in QA, prove yourself, work your way up the ladder. Because that's how, that's how it sort of felt.
Interestingly enough, this is kind of like the same concept for streamers. This is how Twitch basically also grinds people into the dirt. I mean, you guys will notice that when I do stream on Twitch, I'll do the 3-hour stream here and there, 4-hour stream in some situations. Hey, let's go crazy. Let's do like a 6-hour stream. But it's not the norm, right? I stream when I do stream, because right now, like I said, I'm not going to be streaming until I finish Endwalker main scenario. But I stream small hours. And the reason I do it is because then I can get stuff out of that stream. Like I make videos like the one that I'm doing right now off stream, and I'll upload them onto YouTube, and that gets monetized and all of that. Because I know that I'm not going to grow much as a streamer, but there's a lot of people that are like putting in thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours of their lives live streaming, hoping to eventually grow from live streaming. And it's never going to happen. It's like just grinding is never going to happen. You have to get audience somewhere else because Twitch has no discoverability. And it's kind of like, to me, it feels like the people that are doing QA right now in the gaming industry, it feels kind of like the same way. There's no discoverability for them. They're not going to get discovered because developers are treated like rock stars. QA people are treated like ass. In most places, not every place. I don't believe that this is going to be the case in every single place in the industry, because we do see some games come out that are actually polished. I'm not talking about Call of Duty Warzone. I don't know how polished that is, but if we look at World of Warcraft, we know that that's a pile of trash. With every new patch that they make, it's always a pile of trash, pile of untested trash, poorly balanced piece of garbage, right? Because they treat their QA people like ass. It's that simple. But you look at, other games, and you can see that there are games coming out that are still polished. So I'm hoping that in other places that is maybe a viable strategy, but it's just like a parallel that I kind of thought I'd throw out there.
When I was thinking about how to get into the game, it's just like, well, that's like a valid option. And now it's clearly not.
Yeah, and look, that's happened in other industries, this sort of thing, where maybe, a generation or two behind us would be like, oh, well, back in my day, you got your university degree, you got into the company, you worked your way up, company took care of you, stayed at the company for 22, 23, 25 years, you're retired in a good pension.
Back in my day, you could also be a fucking shoe salesman and afford a goddamn house and feed a family of 3 without your wife working. Guess what? This ain't back in the day.
Job's good.
Aye.
And that's just not how it works now.
No.
It's the point where we're starting to see articles talking about polywork. So they're coining a cool new term.
Polywork.
Right, so not great situation going on here for Raven QA. And there was a walkout. Over 60 staff walked out on Monday, making the demand that all QA contractors, including those laid off, receive full-time positions.
Never going to happen.
It's the third walkout we've seen recently. Washington Post spoke to an anonymous QA staffer saying, "It feels like Activision's toxic culture is starting to bleed into Raven. The people who were let go seem to have been chosen completely at random, and the rest of us have survivor's guilt because we know our teammates still deserve to be here. We're all just incredibly heartbroken." And it's this rough thing, like, a company obviously should be allowed to change its staffing policies, its headcount, etc., in line with the needs of its business. But the thing is, whenever they do that, they have to do it. Well, not they have to. Obviously, they don't have to. But they should do it with a bit more care, a bit more tact. And I think as well, we could have some sort of discussion about doing it in a way that is planned. Here's a great example. Like, I don't think anyone's going to say that, like, Activision Blizzard shouldn't be allowed to have got rid of the 800 people they wanted to, evidently, in that time. It's their right to do that. It's just they did it badly. They didn't treat the people well. It wasn't handled well, and it was to the net loss of everybody. But they did that in a way that directly hampered multiple of their own teams. This is shit that I've heard. In addition to that, you can just look at the output. Like, the World of Warcraft community team was seemingly fucked for a while. It's only now...
Because it's not now. Yeah, right.
Now that they are starting to have a semi-reasonable cadence of communications with their players. And there was just this massive gap. And it's like, okay, you're a business. You're allowed to not have these people work anymore, sure, as long as you comply with the local laws. But you did that in a way that compromised your... Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're not stupid because they
Just greedy. Thank you very much.
then tried to rehire for those roles, just that it was basically the same, if not more work being done, sometimes fewer roles, and with the associate tag. Because what better way to take, than to take some up-and-comer, really excited to get into the game industry, gonna work at Blizzard for their first time ever. Oh my god, I get to have a picture at the orc statue, and if I make it a few years, they'll give me a sword. And to pay...
I doubt they give people swords anymore. I mean, come on, let's be real. Nowadays, you get a toothpick. And a slap in the ass. Not a good one.
Pay them less to do more work.
Yeah.
So maybe that is what's really going on.
I mean, the thing about like the firing is that obviously it comes at sort of two different factors. There's one which is, does it impact the game? Does it impact your product for the worse? Are you trying to squeeze out a little bit without actually making more for your users? That's likely the case a lot of the times. We felt it with the QA layoffs.
Yeah.
We felt it with the World of Warcraft community team being gutted. But the other side I think of is like the sheer difference it makes in the long term for the entire industry to go, hey, in 3 months' time, we're not going to renew your contract. But you've got 3 months warning. You've got our number. We'll give a good review to anyone who calls asking. Here's a couple people I know. You might want to get in touch with them.
Yeah.
And then a firm handshake on the way out. Going good luck wherever you're going next. Here's actual resources to help. Versus, come on in. You're not doing too bad, but we're not renewing your contract. Goodbye. Like, I don't know how those one-to-one meetings went. But I feel people would be a lot less annoyed if they were actually, if it didn't destroy their immediate life plans.
And I think that's the big problem. And it's almost...
One of the problems I feel is also the fact that, they keep firing people and hiring people. They're probably hiring people for doing human resources that are not particularly well experienced. And nowadays, people just don't have the same social skills that they used to have back in the day. At least the vibe that I get nowadays from a lot of people is there's a lack of social skills, which is why sometimes you see certain situations out in the world and you're just like, wow, this person is just like completely clueless as to how to behave in a social situation. Like the more and more I see like the younger people get, not the younger that they get, but the more I meet younger people, the more I am noticing that they're very socially awkward. And I'm saying this as someone who is essentially, an antisocial person, right? I'm a little bit of an antisocial. Like, I don't do a lot of socializing. I'm a gamer, for crying out loud. I spend most of my time playing video games and nowadays hanging out with my family. But it's just like, that's the vibe that I get from the younger generation, is that they're they don't have the same social skills. So if you have someone that doesn't have social skills, they don't realize that like, oh, I'm just going to call this person in here and fire them. It's like you need to handle these things with a lot of tact. You can't just like call somebody in and fire them. Like, Jesus Christ.
Certainly down to structural issues within these companies where, you know, between, I don't want to say, what would be the word? The hardening of processes, the hierarchical nature, probably ends up slowing down decision making and all of this stuff to the point where things kind of can't really be done right and on time with differing incentives for everyone along that chain, with the person whose life's actually going to be impacted being at the end of the chain, you know, being dealt with like a problem more than anything else.
Yeah, dehumanization.
Yeah. Now, Activision responds to this saying, "We support their right to express their opinions and concerns in a safe and respectful manner without fear of retaliation." And they responded to Bloomberg saying, "We are converting approximately 500 temporary workers to full-time employees in the coming months. Unfortunately, as a part of this, we've also notified 20 temporary workers across studios their contracts would not be extended." And yeah, this is the sort of thing that is fairly standard. It's just it's all been done in a way that's pretty damn bad PR, and this basically would have been so much more okay if these people were told about these plans way in advance.
Yeah, I mean,
you guys think that they weighed this out as a media thing, and they're like, okay, how many people are we bringing in? 500? We're bringing 500 people into the board? Okay, then gives a fuck about these other 20 dudes that we're about to fire. Okay, nobody's going to care. They don't even look at them as people anymore. They're just numbers. And because of the fact that they're, you know, moving 500 people to a full position, which, you know, awesome for them. That's awesome for the people that are being moved into full time. And I'm happy for those people that are actually getting treated like human beings. But I feel like that could potentially be the reason why they were just like, yeah, fuck them, fire them. Who cares? Whatever. We got 500 people coming in. If anybody gives a shit, we can just tell everybody, hey, we got like 500. I mean, come on, guys. Settle down. We just made 500 people full time. Okay, we can't hire everybody. And it's like, yeah, those 20 people still deserve to be treated as freaking human beings.
Like, imagine
these plans surely couldn't be brand new.
No.
You don't just go and make 500 full-time employees at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
The opportunity was absolutely there to communicate to these people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that. It's like they could have gotten ahead of it from a purely, cynical perspective. They could have, instead of waiting to do this, they could have said, "Hey, we're going to make 500 temporary workers full time as part of what ABK want to see happen." Unfortunately, we've spoken to 20 people who unfortunately we're not going to extend their contract, but we've wished them well. You know, they're going on to somewhere else. We're supporting them as they leave. And that is almost the same thing, but handled slightly nicer and is a PR win. And here they just wait until the news gets ahead of them again, which is because we didn't know about the 500 temps being converted until the story had already been doing rounds as, oh, they just fired at least a dozen people. And then the Raven boss said, it's not really layoffs or just contract terminations, which is true, but it just felt so bad to everyone. Everyone was up in arms about it. The walkout was, organized. They just aren't on top of things at all.
Yep. People in management positions need to be able to think outside of their own bubble. They need to be able to shift and change the lens through which they look at things. They need to start red teaming their own ideas. Like, how is there not somebody in most of these rooms that's like, well, hello, I'm LARPing as a Kotaku writer. Here's how, if I was a Kotaku writer, here's how I would cover what you just said. Like, surely in other large companies, maybe outside of gaming, that sort of thing's normal. Yeah. I don't know. Now, there's the other part then. Versailles closing, finally happening.
The writing was
employees
on the
are still fighting for better redundancy terms, even though it has long been closed. But these things take a while, especially in France. Basically, French law has an element called PSE, a mandatory plan to safeguard employment. Laying off more than 10 employees requires one of these from the company, which basically is to prove that they're not just cutting costs needlessly, as an example, like moving operations to Ireland where they are cheaper. Now, their first plan for the 400 plus layoffs in
Ireland is, or at least used to be, like kind of a tax haven around these parts as well, I think. I seem to remember that Apple was based off of Ireland. I mean, whenever it came to handling their tax stuff and whatnot, all of that is like Ireland. And I think there's a couple more companies do that too.
2018 was invalidated because they did not do enough forward planning that could have prevented redundancies, and they failed to provide evidence of financial difficulties, which could be something to do with the record profits, the record revenues, etc. that was going on around that.
Financial difficulties. Yeah, we had one of our best years in decades. We're gonna need to let these 800 people go. Excuse me, sir. What? I was like, yeah, we don't really want to pay them anymore. We're just gonna get rid of them.
Just an inkling. Of course, it still went ahead under the condition that they would be under more scrutiny next time, and that all employees would automatically win appeals against their redundancy terms. So then they filed a second PSE when laying off the final 264 employees and closing the office outright. And then this is where the scrutiny came in. So a member of the Internal Work Council said this: "We told leadership that we are not in a critical situation, even if they were concerned about Blizzard's competitiveness. At some point, you need to stop joking around. We generate billions of revenue between Activision Blizzard and King with huge margins. So what was the point of doing a PSE during an economic and health crisis, which would lead to people being jobless and struggling to find work? Why not wait? They wouldn't let go of it. I think it's just an excuse, as they wouldn't be noticed in the middle of all the other companies who were laying off at the same time." And a report from the Versailles Tribunal is expected to announce a verdict soon. But Game Cult reports a expert assessment showing that Activision Blizzard was actually hiding how profitable the Versailles operation was by transferring profit to, of course, the parent organization in the Netherlands and transferring the IP rights to London. So
Yeah, we're just gonna. You guys know that? I don't know the name of that game that they do in. They tend to do it in the street, right? The game with the 3 cups, and they put like something below one of the cups, and then they spin it around. That's Blizzard with their finances. They're just like, where's our money at? Where's our money at? And then it's like the person that, the mark that they get off of the street is like governments from multiple different countries. They're the marks. They're like looking and trying to figure out where the Activision money is. And they're just like, where's the money at? You don't know where my money is? Ah! They're just playing street hustle games at a completely unheard of magnitude.
yes, basically siphoning all the profits away so they could say that the French office was really underperforming so it could get killed. I mean, that's the sort of thing that is just fairly standard.
Yeah.
But
that's what companies
obviously, it's fairly standard by the text of the law, and then it doesn't. Now, the outcome of this is likely just going to be chunky fines and better redundancy for the employees. They've actually already paid 179 million to the French tax authority to settle issues with.
Oh, le baguette. I want 179 million baguette, huh? Oh. The French are bleeding their asshole, dude. Yeah, fuck them. You get what you deserve, Blizzard. You get bleed by the French. Oh, le baguette. Oh.
Tax filings. So, yeah.
It's wild. I think it's all about the human cost. Where obviously France is maybe a little bit overboard in some cases. Some might argue that, but it's just the human cost of closing Versailles. Clearly, no one cared enough about it to actually bother doing it. Well, I guess the roles are open in Cork. Also, we don't really want to send a lot of you over because we'd rather have you all just rehired for cheaper. Sorry about that. Hope you find work elsewhere. Yeah. It wasn't anything to do with you. You were doing fine. You were doing perfectly fine in your role. In fact, we're quite happy with it. It just wasn't making as much money as hiring cheaper people.
Yeah, sorry, we redirected the profits away from your legal entity, and that means it's not making a great profit, so you're gone. Now, Jeff Keighley got himself in a wee bit of hot water.
He did indeed.
Yep. So, Game Awards. Let's talk about those. Jeff Keighley announced on Twitter that Activision Blizzard will not be part of the Game Awards outside of the 2 awards that Call of Duty was nominated for, saying there is no place for abuse, harassment, or predatory practices in the community. And he talked about, a big platform that they can use to accelerate and inspire change. Now, as to whether this means, did Jeff contact them for show prep or not? Has anything been changed since the news came out? We just are never going to know that. But the thing is that this does come after him speaking with the Washington Post before a decision was made, which suggests that he kind of was navigating it carefully.
Yeah, I mean, the quote he gave to them was he's thinking about it, haven't said anything, wants to navigate carefully. And he said an awful lot about, we want to support the employees and developers. Yeah. Think careful how to proceed, because obviously he cares about the games, and it's the kind of thing where I see a lot of people annoyed that the Call of Duty still getting nominated for its awards, but from his perspective, I guess he's like, well, I wouldn't want to take the award away from the people who made the game.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, what I...
It is a weird situation. It is very much a weird situation. But then again, I don't really care for those games, so it's like, to me, and I know, look, I'm biased. I have my own set of biases and all of that, but to me, it's like, listen, I couldn't care less about Call of Duty getting or not getting awards. I don't give a damn, dude.
I'd say there is keep it to the games and limit the corporate side.
Yeah.
Limit the corporate side elsewhere, and perhaps there'll be room for something in the show. I guess we'll just have to see how it's actually done, because it is tricky. I mean, Ubisoft also, they have all their issues.
Yeah.
I think actually their CEO is on the board as well, because Rob Kostic,
I think.
Kostic, who is the president of Activision Blizzard, is on the advisory board for the Game Awards, which a lot of people are pointing out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Suffice to say, I don't think there's a risk of Call of Duty really winning anything at this year's Game Awards.
I don't think so. I guess it's just the problem that it's going to have technically it'll have a presence.
Yes.
Where it'll be shown off as and nominated for best wasted development resources. It's Call of Duty Vanguard. Something like that. But hopefully it just gets mogged and everything else wins it.
That's it. But the You Fucking Killed Spyro to add more guns to Warzone award goes to Call of Duty Warzone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, there we go. Obviously, this is all bad stuff for Activision Blizzard. And really, it's all stuff that they could have handled reasonably and respectfully, but they fucked up. They fucked up.
Yep.
They didn't handle it well.
And I really, really hope that, because I know Apex is up for something. I think it might be some community support reward.
Apex and Fortnite and Warzone are nominated in like fucking 60% of the categories of the goddamn Game Awards. Everything is about goddamn Battle Royale. It's Battle Royale, baby. Oh, yeah. Is it gaming even? Is it video games? Or is it just like fucking Battle Royales nowadays? Jesus fucking Christ. Even the big streamers are like, oh, I can't believe Halo's not coming out with a Battle Royale. Battle Royale. It's like, Jesus fuck, dude. God damn.
Something like that there.
Battle Royale.
Because of how they treat Titanfall, Respawn in general, but like the idea that, because obviously Apex is a direct competitor to Warzone.
Yeah.
The idea that the Game Awards could possibly have very strong advertising for Halo, which is another massive competitor to Call of Duty in the shooter market. I would imagine it still is. Then you've got Apex, and then I suppose Battlefield maybe not going to compete too hard this year, but generally speaking, I really hope that Activision see, because they're the people who will be able to make the change will be the people paying attention to all the numbers. So they'll see at the end of the Game Awards, Jeff will go, we had this many million viewers, this many million peak viewers, this many million total viewers. Look at all these eyeballs, and they weren't on your games because you fucked up. They were on your competitors' games. I hope they feel that. I really hope.
Well, it's probably not going to be COD. It's definitely not going to be Battlefield. I mean, I looked at the Open Critic.
Ooh, Battlefield's not looking good at all.
Like 60s or something.
Brutal.
So,
Battlefield is not looking good at all, dude.
Then I don't think there's any hope in hell, which I think means Halo's probably going to get the spotlight. But look, there we go. We'll see what happens. We'll see how they respond, and we'll see what comes of these walkouts. Absolutely. So, just try to do things intelligently, Activision Blizzard. It's like, if you're set on being money-grubbing and evil, you're not doing it competently. That's the thing. We can all sort of see the Call of Duty train risking running aground slightly while they do all of their cost-cutting and optimization of things in a way that's just seems very short. I mean,
or maybe how's this for an idea? Okay, how's this for like a groundbreaking, revolutionary idea? Maybe just don't be a filthy, disgusting, greedy piece of shit. As opposed to entertaining the notion that, hey, if you're going to do it, at least do it right. No, how about just not doing it? How about just not being a disgusting, greedy, like fucking no respect for the art of creating video games anymore? Like, how about just, how about respect the art form of video games? Companies like what Activision Blizzard is basically the reason why there's actually people out there that are like, are video games art? Can video games be considered art? Because these people give it a fucking bad name. These disgusting fucking individuals. Fuck you, Bobby Kotick. Get fired from a fucking cannon.
I don't have special information, but it seems very short-sighted, and certainly the last time they got rid of the 800, that did seem to be very damaging for players and short-sighted, so it's like, what is he even doing? Is this just a case of big edicts coming from up top, and, well, it's just that thing. The people up top don't really know what it's like in the front line, so they're out of touch.
Yep, that is the hypothesis going in. Although there is one bit of slight news that might be slightly vaguely positive, and that is that Toys for Bob have recently posted job listings for one of them particular highlighted was a senior concept artist, and a couple others, and they did not mention Call of Duty, whereas all of the Call of Duty specific hirings did. So I think Toys for Bob might be able to work on another game now.
Holy shit.
Maybe. Good luck to them.
Holy shit, might be a job for Elijah Wood. Who's original Spyro?
I can't remember.
Oh, it's weird. They tried to do a reboot of Spyro that made it all like, grim and serious, and I think Gary Oldman played Sparks, and he just didn't turn up for the sequel, so they recast Sparks. Some funny stuff. Anyway, right, that's it, everyone. Hope you found that interesting. Let us know what you think. There'll be more stuff on this channel very soon indeed, and we'll see you next time.
Interesting indeed. You guys will find a link to the original video in the description of this video, as I always do for everything. Do remember you can suggest videos for me to react to on my Discord, which is also linked in the description of this video. You will find it. You'll find a channel there called Reaction Andy. You can suggest stuff there for me to react to, and I'll be back to live streaming when I eventually work my way through the MSQ of Final Fantasy XIV, which I'm going to jump right back into. I have some more stuff that I want to react to. I have like a big list of things that I want to look at, but right now I want to go play some video games and chill out for a bit. I'm taking it easy after the dumb thing that I did last Thursday. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy it, the dislike button. Remember to swing by Bellular's channel, give it a like in here as well. I would really appreciate that because I like watching these videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.